Welcome to World War II Online Tutorials. How to set up and execute precision bombing raids in any kind of weather. The first thing most individuals say is, how can you do precision bombing from 6K altitude when you can't see the ground? The answer is to do a careful planning and setup and then follow the logical conclusion. Both sides during World War II, Allied and Axis, obviously drop bombs on an area without being able to see the target, besides having well-trained navigators who could calculate where they were by distance and time traveled. Both sides, and especially the Allies, invest heavily in training their navigators, giving them tools to be able to work in the dark, in the plains, and also having bubbles to be able to sight stars for navigation. They still were only semi-successful. However, the Germans had a relatively successful method until the Allies figured out what it was. But that method was using two different signals, originally based on the Lorenz system, developed in the early 1930s, which is for airplanes to be able to land in the dark at night in foul weather at an airport and being able to line up on a runway. And they just extended that and made it something that would travel more than just 30, 40 kilometers. It went out several hundred kilometers. They were only a few hundred meters wide and several kilometers long. They would fly along that, and then when the intersection point was reached, they could just lay the bombs out and hit the factories and the manufacturing centers along that path. Once British intelligence caught on to what was going on, they were able to jam some of the frequencies using strips of aluminum foil and false signals. That having been said, I wanted to see if I could figure out how we could emulate this technique using the tools that we have in the game. And this is what I came up with. Here, I am going to show you how to not only do the area bombing, but the area size is the size of a factory. And you can do it from any altitude if you set it up correctly. Since the factory flak is very deadly under 5K, we're going to be bombing from above 5K. In fact, I'm going to try this run at 6. The main thing is to have it set up ahead of time before you even start your run, so that you don't have to fiddle with any ground marks or whatever, and if you set it up properly, then you will have a successful mission. Now, as you can see, I'm beginning to set up waypoints for a single factory. You can't set up multiple factories because there'll be way too many marks in that particular city. I have these two lines which I have set up. Starting from here, I measure from there to there approximately 1 inch, and the same for here. And if you don't have a tape measure, you can use the first segment of your index finger, which is approximately 1 inch. For the scale, you want to zoom in on the factory just until the wall becomes visible. Once the wall first becomes visible, that again is the scale you want to use. Now I set these two perpendicular lines so that they are just outside the tip of the wall of the factory. This will be my drop indicator, so that when your crosshairs cross over that line, then you know you're going to be ready to drop within a second or so. Now, approximately 1.5 to 2 inches out from the apex of the factory, you want to make a corridor, starting with bomb marks, extending all the way out parallel to the course that you'll be traveling, both north and south of the apex of the factory. You want to set an even number so that you can give yourself a countdown, as in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then at that point you'll be at the drop line. Then the blue mark out at the tip out here is going to mark the beginning or the end, however you want to say it, of that drop line. And then the second blue mark is going to be lined up with the center of the factory. So if you draw a line between those two blue marks, they should intersect with the center of the factory. That way, as you're crossing up, you have another cue that says, you better start dropping those bombs or you're going to end up missing your target. Now, it might be hard to see here, but I've named the factory for what it is, factory number 3, and I've also put the altitude. I always put the factory, and then the number right after that is the altitude that the factory is at. So when you're setting your bomb site, you'll not only have your airspeed, which is going to be the indicated airspeed, which is the IAS on the box. Also, you're going to subtract from that altitude that you have the factory altitude, which is at 47 meters in this case. And remember, the center of the factory is the tip of the middle of those 3 long skinny buildings at the factory square. And that's what you want to set your waypoint at. The time is appropriate. That is what you're going to mark as your active waypoint so that you can line up directly onto that factory. As you can see here, I keep making sure that I am lined up with that waypoint, with that center of the circle on my map. I am also constantly checking my airspeed and my altitude to make sure that I'm got everything set the way I need it to be so I can make a successful bomb drop. Now, one other thing I've noticed is that the waypoints don't show up until you're virtually on top of them. So if you're going very fast at all, you will not see them until it's way too late. So you have to get yourself slowed down to almost stall speed at approximately 140 to 150 kilometers per hour indicated airspeed. And as you do that, the bomb marks will pop in, and you'll see that here in a moment. And then you have plenty of time to drop. You can almost wait till you're over the center of the factory to start dropping them. Now, for the remainder of the video, I'm going to speed it up so that we can get some of this over with, and I'll put it back to normal speed once we get to the area of the actual waypoint. I will also be keeping the volume down from the video clip, because the Discord conversation has nothing to do with this actual bombing mission. And here we go. You can hear I'm pretty excited. I'm dropping these bombs, but you can see I was able to drop them right there, and then as I did drop them, because my plane is flying so slow, it drops out of the autopilot, so I had to recover very quickly. And coming up here is a stop action showing as I come down those bomb marks, about where the line crosses, and then this is where I start dropping the bombs, especially when the second blue mark popped in. I definitely wanted to drop the bombs at that point. And based on the speed and altitude that I'm at, then I'm about 13 kilometers outside of the target area when I drop the bombs. And I try to go back and show you what it looked like if I could see the bombs going down, but they already had passed through some clouds, so it was not possible to see them. Normally you can see them with the bomb sight. Then I turn around and head back for home after a successful bomb mission. And then I open the chat box and set a .own to verify that I did hit the factories. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and if you enjoyed this, please pass it around and let others know that we have some more of these.